We'll call to order the City Council regular meeting agenda for Monday, December the 16th, 2024 at 6:47 p.m. If you would all rise, I'm going to lead us in an invocation followed by the pledges to both of our flags by Councilmember Koza. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just come and ask you to come and be a part of our proceedings tonight. We thank you, Father, for the opportunity to come and serve not only the citizens within this community, but the city itself, and making the decisions, setting the direction, and all of the great things that go on right here in our community. We want to celebrate with you and thank you for the opportunity that each and every one of us have to come and be a part of that. I want to thank you for the citizens that you've brought out tonight and those that engage with us on a daily basis. Thank you for allowing us to hear them, converse with them, and be a part with them. Father, we also want to gather tonight and ask you to be with each and every one of our first responders throughout this city, wherever they are tonight, whatever they're doing tonight, that you will protect them, that you will guide them, and each and every day that you bring these men and women home safely. The same thing for all of our men and women in the military around the globe as they fight and be a part and to help us be free and to protect us from any kind of harm around this world. Father, we thank you for the season that we're entering, the holiday time, what it means to each and every one of us, for our particular religions as well as our community. Just bring us together, draw us together, and we want to make sure that we give you honor and glory in return. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. All right. Again, thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. Apologize for being a little bit late and getting this meeting started. We had a workshop at 5 o'clock that ran over, so apologize for not being on time. I love making sure that we start our meetings on time. So with that, hopefully we can get through this meeting, give each and every one of you a little bit of time back as we move through it. With that, moving forward in the agenda, roll call and certification of quorum. Madam Secretary, certify that we have a quorum present, as all members are present with the exception of Member Byram, who will be absent for the remainder of the evening. Citizens' comments, we do have several that signed up to speak, 2 to specific items and 2 for general comments. With that, Mayor Pro Tem will read your names, and you can go to the podium and give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes to speak.
All right, thank you, Mayor. First up, Mr. Edward Pacheco. Thank you for being here. If you would go to the podium, give us your name and address for the purpose of the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Josh, can we move the microphone down and to the side? Is it, yeah, get the handheld. 1 second, Edgar.
There? Okay. Oh, yeah, the handheld mic. Thank you very much. My name is Edgar Pacheco, 1740 O'Day Road, Garland, Texas, 77581. Today I'm not necessarily speaking on a specific agenda item. I'm actually speaking to an issue that we've been having on our street. We recently moved to 1740 O'Day Road. This is a family property. However, we have 8 different residents in that specific road. But the city, in some of our conversations with them to get the road paved, has said that it is a private road, even though almost all of the residents in that area are connected to city water and sewage, and it is no longer private land. The issue with the road itself is I have a big blue accessible handicap van, which makes it very difficult to enter into that road. Sometimes it hits the bottom of the ramp that can cause issues with it and ultimately cause it to break or malfunction. That being said, it is also a safety hazard. We have not had any issues, thank God, where we have needed emergency services like police, fire, or EMS. But in the event that there was an issue, our concern, my family's concern is that they would not be able to get through that road. The access is very narrow, and in order to enter inside our property, it is a very large ditch there that risks anyone who does a very wrong backwards drive to fall into that ditch. And so, for safety concerns and for the concerns that I bring up with my van, wanted to bring this up to your attention, request assistance from City Council, Mayor Cole, in helping us get this resolved. Thank you very much.
All right. All right. Thank you for those comments. And I know city staff heard the issue, and I'm sure they'll be reaching out to you.
And I'm sure we'll get a follow-up on all that.
Right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank
All right. Next up, Mr. Eric Vance. Same thing. If you go to the podium, give us your name and address for the purpose of the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. And thank you for being here.
Is this? Yeah. My name is Eric Vance. I live at 3505 Jasperstone Lane, and I work at Pearland Animal Hospital. I'm sorry I showed up in dirty scrubs. I came right after work. My son got hit by a car on Friday morning. He's fine. He has a newfound respect for looking both ways, I think. But yeah, there was the squeal of tires, the thump, everyone went running, all of that. And I had to straighten the bike tire out, things like that. He's fine, but it does sort of condense my concerns that were sort of vague, much more concrete now. We live just off Old Alvin Road, and up at the north end at McCard, there's an elementary school, Cockrell Elementary, where my son goes. Down south towards Broadway, there's Junior High East, Junior High West, Salvatore Middle School, where my daughter goes. And in between, there's basically 4 lanes of straight road for people to drive as fast as they want. There's one stop sign that people sort of pay attention to. On a daily basis at Jasperstone Road, where it crosses, or lane, sorry, there's at least 10, 20 people that cross on nice days to come over and use the park and things like that. On days where kids are going to school, at some point on Old Alvin, there's at least 100, probably more kids crossing at various points. So I have, I think, 3 requests that I'd like to see if possible. One is a crossing, street crossing at Jasperstone. If we could get a crosswalk there, there's not a crosswalk for a quarter mile north or south from there. And I think that would keep people from just walking out in front of cars and things like that I've seen. Second request is all along Old Alvin, that entire stretch, the crosswalks that are there are not terribly well marked for some of them. So maybe a little bit better signage. If the signs that flash, things like that are possible, just something to get drivers to slow down and pay attention. It's a 35-mile-an-hour zone. I don't really like seeing people drive 50, 55, things like that on it. And then the last thing is much more general. I'm sure that this is not the only area in Pearland where kids have areas where they're walking to school in places that may not be safe. I don't know those other ones, but if there's a way to get a poll of teachers and parents and things in Pearland ISD just to try to find these areas where maybe it could be as simple as putting in a crosswalk, something like that, I think that would be really nice. Thank you for your time, y'all.
Eric, thank you, and we agree. We're thankful that he really wasn't injured. Could have been much worse, and so thank you for bringing that to our attention. And I think staff, that's probably something to go to our traffic committee and study a little bit more in depth, and make sure if there's any recommendations come out of that, then we could have a follow up back here. But thank you for coming out tonight. With that, like I said, the other comments that were signed up are for specific items, and when we get to those items, we'll call your name out to do that. With that, we'll move to the consent agenda. I have had items C and G asked to be pulled, C and G to be pulled. So with that, was there any others to be pulled? Seeing none, Mr. Koza, if you would present consent agenda items A through G with the exception of C and G.
Certainly, Mayor. Consideration and possible action on consent agenda items A through G with the exception of C and G. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavadilla?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, Mr. Koza, if you present item C as in Charlie.
Certainly, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, second and final reading of ordinance number 1645. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Quick staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is for the second and final reading of the ordinance to annex MUD 16. Just to recap from what we talked about during the first reading at the last meeting, there was a 2003 strategic partnership agreement that was developed as when the MUD was originally developed. And so what we did this past year is we evaluated all the remaining MUDs within and outside of the city limits to determine if it was time to consider annexation of any of those MUDs. And MUD 16 was one of the ones that was ready for annexation based on its current state of development. There's benefits to both the residents and the city at this time. And therefore, in October, the council directed staff prepare the service plan for this area and start moving through the annexation process. We have had multiple meetings with both the MUD board and representatives of the property owners or homeowners association. And then we conducted our 2 public hearings in November. And then we had the first reading at the last meeting, the final reading at this, that would conclude with the annexation at the end of this year. Another item that was included on tonight's agenda, actually on the consent agenda, was a memorandum of understanding that defines the roles and responsibilities during the transition period. There's about a 3-month transition period, and that also designates that some of the remaining funds within the MUD will be spent within the MUD. Many of those projects are already in the process of being completed, and then there's other ones identified that we will provide the funds to make those funds available for the MUD or the HOAs to complete those projects. So with that, Mayor, we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good deal. Mr. Patel asked for this to be pulled, so I'll go to you first.
Thank you, Mayor. So a couple of things. I guess what I wanted to know, were any concerned citizens ever, did they ever come about regarding being annexed that you know of?
So no, I believe at all the public hearings we did have representatives of the MUD and the HOAs, and they expressed I believe some mild concerns that some of the things that they had in the works would get done, and that's what the purpose of the MOU is.
And no one made any concerns regarding the fact that long-term wise that this would be more unfriendly annexation on them, because the tax rate would actually be higher being annexed than not being annexed. No one made that concern.
So I think the information we presented and looked through took into account all the factors. One of the largest ones is that they currently pay 1.5 times our water and sewer rates within the district. And as those rates continue to go up, they will continue to pay 1.5 times what people in the city pay. So we analyze that. Also, they pay a fee to the city for fire service. That would continue to go up. And then, yes, the tax rate now, they do have a higher tax rate than the city. At some point, is it possible that their tax rate drops below ours? It is, but when you couple that with the fire service fee and the 1.5 times on the water service fees, it would be well into the future, if ever, that this is not a better deal for them to get full city services and pay what everybody else does in the city for water and sewer. So we did not hear any objections to that once we walked folks through the numbers.
I guess there are not enough people who are concerned about it, but I would tell you it is a concern of mine that, again, when we went through the exercise, I know some of the data points that you guys entered were kind of low, where it made it look like the city would benefit by being annexed by the city, and I still disagree with it. And that's just for the record. And again, I don't like the idea of having donut holes everywhere where everybody's not in the city. So end of the day, I'm going to support it, but I just want to make sure the citizens of that mud district understand, long-term wise, they would have benefited if they had voiced not being annexed. But that being said, if they're not worried about it, neither am I.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
I mean, just to clarify, I've looked at the same data, and I think they're better off purely from the water rate.
I concur from the water rate part.
I think in total, because of the water rate, that I think they're better off. I don't want to argue. I want to be on the record too, saying that you saw the same data I did.
I mean, I guess it's what the commercial development that's going on, what value they add on the ground.
Right.
And I think that's really important, that the commercial development that's happening in front of their development, it's going to have a substantial improvement value, appraised value that could help lower that tax rate.
But I think it's also just important to reiterate and point out that the strategic partnership agreement that was put in place in 2003 was with the intent that they would eventually be annexed. So this isn't something new that wasn't planned for from the beginning of that being formed.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavania?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
With that, we'll move to item G. Mr. Koza, if you present it as well.
Yes, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution number R2024-245. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Staff update.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is to authorize a contract with Baxter Woodman for an update to our Parks, Recreation, Open Spaces, and Trails Master Plan. Aaron Tooley with Baxter Woodman did our last update, and we update the Parks Master Plan every 5 years so that we remain eligible for grant funding with Texas Park and Wildlife and other opportunities like that, which is one of the mechanisms that we received grant funding for the Ed Thompson Inclusive Playground. The program includes extensive public engagement as we go through the process of updating the plan, and then also included in the what you're approving tonight is authorizing a reimbursement agreement between the city and the Pearland Economic Development Corporation with the PEDC reimbursing the city for the cost of this plan. With that, we'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay. Mr. Patel, you asked for that to be pulled, so I'll go
Yes.
first.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess this has to be done every 5 years. Is there a way, Trent, you can provide data on how much money we were able to be eligible and receive from these grants for the last 5 years when they did this project? Because I didn't see that information in there.
I don't know if Carrie can weigh in on, I know at least the Ed Thompson one, we probably have that, and I don't know if we have any.
The most recent project was Ed Thompson Inclusive Park, and that was the grant from Texas Parks and Wildlife was $750,000. And then in the past, we've also had some trail projects that were joint funded.
Yeah, I guess if you can give me data, Carrie, on total. I mean, we're spending almost close to $300,000 every 5 years. It seems like, at least then we would want to know, because of this expenditure, what is the return, right? Like, I didn't see that information. I would certainly like to know and let the public know that every 5 years we're spending $300,000, but in return we're getting something back for it. Are they here today?
Yes, our consultants are here.
So, sir, in the last 5 years, what projects or what did you consider on the west side? What parks did you consider? Would you?
Yeah, you go ahead and head to the podium. When you start your comments, just give us your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Aaron Tooley. I'm a planner with Baxter and Woodman. Happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you so much for coming tonight. I guess I live on the west side, and what's your action plan on finding some projects for parks, larger parks on the west side? Because right now, most of our neighborhoods have park, which the associates association takes care of maintaining, right? And we don't really have a park on the west side like we do have the Independence Park or Centennial Park. So I would like to know what your plan is in this project to kind of address that.
Well, typically, because this is a Texas Parks and Wildlife compliant plan, as far as the program of the various assessments that we go through, TPWD requires that you do a standards-based assessment, which looks at the distribution of parks across the city, and we gauge the degree of walkability to each park, for example. But the National Recreation and Parks Association, which is the overarching industry organization, if you will, they set out rigorous standards as far as in looking at different parks departments, agencies throughout the country. What is the typical number of acres per capita that a city should have? So we can compare Pearland to a host of other cities of comparable size, but we're also going to be looking at cost of living index and really drilling down to make sure that the comparison communities that we're looking at are indeed very similar to Pearland. But we'll be looking at what is the comparable number of park acreage as well as facilities that are in comparable communities, and how can we achieve that here in Pearland as well?
So I guess recently, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, we were given some data points that said we were on the bottom of the list with parks in our community. Is that the 5-year-old data that we were shown?
That information is correct. No, just recently, Pearland Economic Development Corporation had some additional studies that should have come out that was shared with council. So that information is more current than 5 years. In our last park master plan, we have some really great data that shows the overlay. It takes into account our city-owned park space as well as our HOA-owned park spaces, and it looks at that 10-minute walkability. In the last master plan, there were also some recommendations for the sports complex at Shadow Creek Ranch Phase 2, Hickory Slough Sportsplex Phase 2. Both of those parks are further on the west end of our community. And then in this upcoming plan, one of the things that we have included in the scope of the project, we get a lot of recommendations in the plan, but then where do we have space to build those? And so we have identified several locations within the city that are spread out across the west, central, and the east end of Pearland, and looking at, once we go through the process of determining community needs, then those will be sites that will do some conceptual overlays to see where we could actually build those amenities for our community.
So this, I guess I'm looking at their proposal on page 28, or, and I'm trying to, not just 28, but I guess it's starting on page 27. And they're breaking down. So how, you said this is going to take 12 months to complete this project?
12 months and then giving an extra 2 months for adoption as well.
Okay. And one of the things I guess I read was you guys are going to have a listening session, correct?
Multiple listening sessions,
Okay.
yes, sir.
And how do you plan on getting these people on there? Because it's sometimes it tends to be the same people giving you the same answers. Yeah. And even I have a hard time as a council member to get people from multiple areas to participate. So how are you going to kind of go out and, because what people want on the west side is completely different than on the east side, right? So how do you plan on addressing that?
Well, during the last plan that we developed, we worked very closely with the Parks and Recreation Department in identifying the types of listening sessions that we wanted to convene, how that was going to be instrumental in getting us in good demand-based information from a variety of user groups. But we would welcome invitations to people from City Council as well to join those listening sessions. So we'll be hopefully tapping into a variety of resources to get a good cross-section of people that represent your full constituency.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any other questions, comments? Good questions, Mr. Patel. Mr. Tuen?
So I just have one question. So the requirement is 5 years. We have to do this every 5 years. Thank you.
All right. Any other call for questions, comments? Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Koza,
Aye.
Member Chavadilla, Aye. Member Cade,
Aye.
Member Tuman,
Aye.
Member Patel,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
So with that, we'll move to our public hearings. With that, public hearing number one, Martin, are you presenting?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, if you'll read the reason for the public hearing and move into the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. So for this first public hearing, this is a request by Andrew Lang, BGE.
Time out, real quick. Martin, just real quick, I'm going to give the floor to Mr. Tuman.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and recuse myself from here. No business dealings with them, but we do own the property that's adjacent, and I just would rather recuse myself.
Thank you for that. Yep. Carry on, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, first public hearing, a request by Andrew Lang, BGE Incorporated, applicant on behalf of RMJ Miller Real Estate Holdings Limited and estate of Elizabeth McNeil Ferguson, owners, for approval of a zone change from residential estate RE district to planned development district, incorporating approximately 220.67 acres of land into the Massey Oaks planned development. This property is generally located south of Old Massey Ranch Road, east of future Harkey Road, and west of McLean Road. So as stated, this is for incorporation into a much larger planned development. This portion of the development is for single-family home development and would incorporate about 639 homes. There are a few amenities, including 3 parks, an internal trail system, and an amenitized detention pond. And the base zoning district that is proposed within the planned development is the R4 single-family residential 4 district. Going into public comments, we held the public meeting with Planning and Zoning Commission, and then have not received any comments from the public so far. Taking a look at the surrounding uses, you can see it borders on the existing Rogers Tract within the Massey Oaks planned development along the southern west portion. And then there's the Magnolia Creek development in the R3 and R4 along the west side there. And then some large undeveloped portions of land on the east and south. Taking a look at the future land use map, we see the majority of the development is within the compact residential. The R4 supports the compact residential, and then there is an area of mixed use center, which we'll talk about more in depth here in just a little bit. So wanted to highlight where some of those roadways were. You can see Old Massey Ranch Road running along the north. The McLean Road extension runs north to south. And then there is a proposed major collector that would come in from the east and intersect with McLean. Currently, we are working through a study with HGAC and anticipate that it will have a proposal for abandonment for that section of the proposed collector here from McLean going west. So I want to briefly show an overall of all of Massey Oaks. You can see our new updated aerial imagery showing sections 1 and 2, and then 4 and 5 down here, 3 and 5, I should say, within the original Massey tract. You can see some development within the Lou tract, the Lou South tract. And there's the original Ordino, and then what you're seeing tonight is Ordino Tract 2. So zooming into just the Ordino Tract 2, there are a variety of lot types that are proposed for development, ranging from 45 foot in width all the way up to 55 foot, and then with depths generally in the 120 to 130 range. Here we can take a look at some of the amenities that are proposed. There's a variety of lakes with walking trails, some entry monumentation, and then some additional landscaping, all with the compliant park space being provided. So that way everything is within a quarter-mile distance as originally laid out within the Massey Oaks development. Here we can see some of the fencing plan that is proposed. And then in staff's analysis, this is consistent with the approval criteria within the Unified Development Code. It is the majority of the development is consistent with the future place type. However, the mixed-use center, we believe staff and through the comprehensive plan, that area was designated, one, to provide an area for residents to eventually have some sort of shopping or additional needs met down there, but also that that proposed collector would have run through there and provided for additional traffic outflow. With that being proposed for removal, it may not make entire sense to have that there, but should this plan development move forward, then we'll likely move forward with a future land use update for this portion to remove it. With that, staff recommends approval of the requested zone change to add this into Massey Oaks PD. P&Z voted 5-0 to approve and is now on council's agenda. Mayor, I'll pass back to you.
All right, thank you. Andrew, you and Chris, do you have a presentation? All right. Thank you for being here tonight. Just give us your name and address for the record to tie comments back to the official record.
Thank you, Mayor. As Martin stated, my name is Andrew Lang. We are the applicant for this project. Our office is located at 10777 Westheimer Road, Suite 400 in Houston, Texas. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight, Mayor, members of council. I'll be brief. I think staff did an excellent job of covering our request, but just a couple of additions that we'd like to make. Again, we're asking to annex these 220 acres into the existing Massey Oaks Land Development District. It'll add approximately somewhere between 600 and 640 lots, which will create additional ad valorem tax value for both the city of Pearland and Brazoria County MUD 69. And with that additional value and this project, it'll allow us to additionally develop improvements to County Road 100, Old Massey Ranch Road. The addition of this property will be consistent with the Massey Oaks plan development. All of the same requirements that are existing in the Massey Oaks Plan Development District are proposed and consistent here, all the way down to our fencing plans and elevations. At this time, there is significant public builder interest, including Meritage Homes and Beazer Homes. And Meritage Homes in particular was so keen to join in on this project that with the sale of Massey that we all know is taking place in a series of phases, they are exercising as a part of that contract a right of first refusal on this tract, and that says to us that there's interest in expanding the project further. And then with that, briefly, sections 1 through 5 of Massey have already been closed, and beyond that, some additional takedowns of the next section will be happening early next year, and I believe about every 90 days after that next sale in the first quarter of this coming year. With that, we'll make ourselves available for any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Andrew. Yeah, if we have any questions, we'll certainly have circle back around. As this is a public hearing, we'll open it up for the public portion of it. And anybody wishing to speak for or against this proposed request, go to the podium, give us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing no one moving in that direction, then we'll move it to City Council for your questions, comments, and concerns. Anybody have anything? Ms. Kate?
Martin, is R4 is the smallest residential lot?
R4 is the smallest detached single-family home product that the city offers.
Townhome would be below that, but it's usually not or detached.
Can't find that zoning matrix anywhere. All right, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, I like the fact this is being pulled into the PD, so it'll flow with the adjacent development. So I think it makes sense.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, ditto. I think being a part of the overall plan and having it flow east and west is better than having completely individual developments up and down the roadway. I think it'd be more cohesion. I'm assuming part of the PD, part of Massey Oaks, so same thing with consistent with HOA and all of that. Do you know if, and Andrew, I know y'all are the engineers and not necessarily setting up the HOAs and all that kind of stuff, but I would assume, will it have maybe its own village, but part of the overall HOA and those types of things as well? Do you know?
I think our understanding is that, yes, it'll be integrated into the larger project as a whole.
And I recognize you're engineering the project, not necessarily putting up and setting up the HOA side of things. But I think as a part of the PD and a part of a cohesive development, that would be better than having it, fractured and detached. So last call, questions, comments? Staff, any wrap-up comments? Seeing none, then we'll close this docketed public hearing and we'll move to new business item number 1. Ms. Chavarria, would you present it, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, first reading of ordinance number 2000M-265. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report as well as questions and input from council. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Chavarria?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Nay.
The motion passes 4-1.
All right, with that, yeah. Stick your head back there and see if he's there. With that, we'll move to public hearing number 2. Same drill, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor. Public hearing number 2. This is a request by Hong Liang Huang, applicant on behalf of Pearland Office Center LLC, owner, for approval of a conditional use permit for a studio or learning center for fine or performing arts use within the Business Park 288 BP 288 district. This is on approximately 30.715 acres of land. This property is generally located at 2743 Smith Ranch Road, Unit 2504. So as stated, this is for a learning studio or learning center for fine or performing arts. This is within an existing 1,200 square foot lease space within the office park. This land use requires conditional use permit approval in BB 288. With that, we've only had one person reach out for more information about this request. And then taking a look at the future land use and surrounding areas, you can see this is all within the business park and it is zoned BP 288, and there's a variety of land uses up and down Smith Ranch Road, including big box shopping center, single-family residences, detention, and some undeveloped property seeking eventual development. Here you can take a look at the unit that they are proposing for this learning center to be within. It's an end unit. They're at kind of the far end of the east side of the development. So with that, staff went through their criteria. This is recommended for, and there were no conditions by P&Z, who voted 5-0 to recommend approval. With that, Mayor, I'll pass back to you.
All right, thank you, Martin. Is the applicant present? Do you have a presentation for us tonight? Wonderful, thank you. Thank you for being here. we go.
Happy holiday, everyone. My name is Hong Liang Huang. I got my art degree from UT Austin at 2008. I started my art studio at 2013. Over these 11 years, we have been teaching more than 3,000 students. Enya Studio is an award-winning studio. Our students we have students over the whole Houston. Right now, we have a campus at Richmond, Katy, Cypress, and we have some students we have a temporary location at Pearland too. All over the Houston, we have more than 400 students. We bring good quality of art education to all the students, all age. Start from 4 years old. Right now we have 90 4 years old and 5 years old little ones learning art year round here. In Houston, we have a lot of junior high and high school students too. We even provide art therapy for special education, special education kids. We help students apply to college too. Our studio provide a very good quality summer camp in every summer. Usually we have a 2D art paintings in the morning, and then we have a ceramics class in the afternoon. Every Wednesday, we brought students to Houston Museum of Fine Arts. We are pretty famous at Houston Museum of Fine Arts because all our students can draw very well. They really enjoy. We open the windows to teach all this art history to the little bitty ones. We help students to win a lot of awards in state levels, local levels, state level, and national levels. For example, you can see the art pieces here. The top right one, the rodeo one, that pieces won $95,000 in 2022 in Houston Rodeo art auction. The fish pieces and the printmaking pieces are the national silver medals last year. The crab pieces and the bird pieces are one of the winning pieces from Texas Coastal Art. That's art contest was held by Texas General Land Commission office to advocate protecting our Texas ocean and our beautiful beach. Every year, we encourage 100 of our students enter this contest. In the past 10 years, we already get the first prize. First place is in this contest. Last year, we have 20 students winning this contest out of 40 winners all over the Texas state. We have one student from Pearland actually get to the finalist too.
Very cool.
We help high school students to apply colleges. For example, like the first piece, second pieces are from students applied the design majors in Carnegie Mellon 2 years ago. The last pieces was done by the students who get accepted by RISD and winning a $60,000 scholarship every year. We hire local art teachers, so we can provide a job opportunity for Pearland artists. The teacher we have is actually living at Pearland. Beyond the art education, we support local communities. Our students come from different junior high school, high school. They form a lot of clubs, and they always ask us for donation. We always support our students, support our community, support our schools. Currently, we have more than 400 students across Houston area. And we plan to buy a location at 2743 Smith Ranch Road, Unit 2504, Pearland, Texas, as our new business location in Pearland. Through the fine, engaging art classes, we hope make a good quality art education for everyone, every Pearland citizen and kids. Thank you so much. This is all about our studios.
Thank you for that. If we have any questions and comments, we may have you back up, but thank you for the presentation here and incredible work by your students.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move to the public portion of this. Those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request can go to the podium. Give us your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing no one move in that direction, we will move to questions, comments, concerns from City Council. Anybody? So you're actually the art whisperer behind some of the rodeo art that has been coming through Dawson High School recently. So it's good to see a name and a face and some great work by some of those students over the years. And I mean, incredible work. So very good job. With that, we will close this docketed public hearing and we'll move to new business item number 2. Mr. Carbone, would you present that, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, Resolution R 2024-CUP 24-23. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We've had staff report as well as questions and comments from council. Madam Secretary will call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Kosa?
Aye.
Member Chavia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel? The motion passes 5-0.
All right. Thank you for that and welcome. Look forward to more and more great artwork coming from those students. With that, we'll move to public hearing number 3. Martin, if you'll present and move into your presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. For public hearing number 3, this is a request by Srikanth Sharda, applicant on behalf of Magnolia 15.512 Acre Limited, owner for approval of a conditional use permit, CUP, for an auto wash self-service use within the Magnolia Parkway Planned Development District on approximately 1.3470 acres of land. This property is generally located west of Manville Road, south of Magnolia Parkway, here in Pearland. So as stated, the applicant's intent is to develop this 5,200 square foot auto wash self-service with vacuum stations and an office. We've had no public comments in support or opposition to this request. And then taking a look at the actual site and the surroundings, this is located within the mixed-use center. It's got the 7-Eleven gas station to the north, the CVS to the east, along with Midtown at Magnolia townhomes, and then Elation Apartments are going up just to the west. And then it is bordered on the south by some detention. Here you can get a look at the proposed site plan. There's a variety of entry and exit ways that are provided here, providing connection both to the remainder of Elation up here at the gas station, and then additionally to Elation on the south here, south and west. Then there's internal routing for the customers, and then the vacuum stations are here kind of sandwiched in between all of the driveways. Here you can see their proposed landscape plan. They have worked diligently with staff to incorporate many of the design features that we'll see in the conditions that are, again, reflected on this site plan. Taking a look, as always, with auto wash locations, there are 0 within 1 mile, 5 locations within 2 miles, and then 7 locations within 3 miles, of one of which is outside of the city of Pearland. So in staff's analysis, this meets the criteria for approval provided with the conditions as proposed by staff. And I'll read through them rather quickly. First is maintaining a 25-foot landscape strip with large shade trees. These are to be at a 2-inch minimum caliper, measured 12 inches above the root ball, with total caliper inches equal to 1 inch for each 10 feet of lot depth, and a continuous row of shrubs with a minimum height of 3 feet at planting. This is for the eastern and western property boundaries. 2, a continuous row of shrubs with a minimum height of 3 feet at the time of planting. Must be provided along the south property or south side of the primary building and along the southern property line, as shown in the landscape plan. 3, a continuous row of shrubs with a minimum height of 3 feet at the time of planting must be provided adjacent to the screening wall of the refuse containers, as shown in the landscape plan. 4, a continuous row of shrubs with a minimum height of 3 feet and a minimum of 12 ornamental trees with a minimum 2-inch caliper measured at 12 inches above the root ball must be installed at the time of planting, with an 8-foot wide planting island along the north side of the stacking lane. 5, ornamental trees with a minimum 2-inch caliper measured at 12 inches above the root ball, with the total caliper inches equal to 1 inch for each 15 feet of lot depth must be provided at the time of planting along the northern property line, with a planting island of 10 feet wide. 6, gravel mulch is not permitted. And 7, proposed auto wash use shall utilize a centralized vacuum system to reduce noise. So with all of this, those were the conditions that were presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. P&Z heard that, recommended approval with those conditions with a 5-0 vote. And again, with resolutions that come before council, should council desire these conditions to be maintained, then it will need to be added to the following resolution. With that, Mayor, I'll pass back to you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant present? Do you have a presentation for us? All right, wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight.
All right, hello everyone. Let me introduce myself. This is Shrikant Chadha. I based out of, I live at 4239 Pebble Heights Lane, Sugar Land, Texas. And I'm looking forward to come to Pearland. A little bit about us. We have been in Houston from 2012, and we are into Montessori school business. My wife does operate that, and Riverstone Montessori is our first location, and we are expanding our location. We have been started our second in Iowa Colony, and the third one is currently built up in Friendswood. That's something that currently my wife is operating on. Talking next about the auto car wash, particularly we saw about this during our presentation, the 3 locations, and within 1 mile, we do not have any presence, but the 3 locations that we have after the 1 mile area are the manual car washes. 2 of them are manual car wash. One is a detailed hand car wash, which is actually very different than what we are proposing of the tunnel or conveyor car wash, which we call as. Here is a sample that we have kind of with the PD that we have, which would kind of look as a tunnel car wash that's going to be in. And we will be making sure that we'll be following the requirements which are already listed in the PD document in that region. So those are going to be covering, making sure the brick and the wall and then the equipment and the lighting features are going to be incorporated. Giving an oversight of this project, particularly when we spoke about almost around 110 square feet of tunnel is what we are planning to build there, which will be needing 15 plus employments in PLN, and kind of having the operation hours and things to make sure that it's convenient. It's going to be a great facility for the apartments coming there in that area. The 7 conditions that we spoke about that were pointed out, we totally accept that, all 7 conditions. I've worked with my architect to make sure that all the landscaping comments are incorporated in our landscaping plan, and we will be able to do. And I'm also working with one of the largest Sunny's car wash equipment providers, and have got that confirmation on making sure the vacuum noises are going to be minimum to reduce the noise, which is going to be in centralized location. Just talking a little bit more about the Sunny's car wash, they are one of the largest manufacturer, and they have visited the site. I'm working with them together, and then they do have all their manufacturing unit in Florida, and they do kind of a lot of activities and support, and the software that has been provided and also the equipments that has been given are kind of high quality products. That's it. If you have any questions, I can happy to answer.
Wonderful. When we get to that portion, we may have a few questions, so I'll call you back up if we do. With that, we'll turn to the public portion of this public hearing, and that is anybody wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Go to the podium, give us your name and address. You have 3 minutes to speak. Second attempt, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Third and final time, those wishing to speak for or against this proposed request. Seeing no one move in that direction, we'll turn it over to council for questions, comments, and concerns. Ms. Chavarria.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you so much for the presentation. So this is probably a question for Martin. We have a gas station, CVS, and now the new apartments. So is there any kind of traffic study and how this is going to impact traffic?
So when the development comes through, they'll have to provide a traffic worksheet. That traffic worksheet will be able to be utilized by the engineering department to tell if there's any timing improvements that need to take place at that intersection to be able to better maintain levels of service in that area. But from there, as this is just a CUP and we're approving potentially a use, they haven't gotten fully into that step yet.
Thank you.
Ms. Kate?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, it warms my heart to see 0 other car washes in a one mile radius. But also, and thank you, the applicant mentioned something about the PD. Trent, what, we talked about that the other day. Can you elaborate on that again, please?
PD done for the apartments included.
Included a car wash, is that right?
So can we address that in more detail than I know?
Sure thing, Trent. So the Magnolia PD essentially laid out the apartment complex, and then it had one live-work development, another commercial aspect to it along Magnolia, and then it had this out parcel here on Manville Road. The PD said no car washes on Magnolia, but if you're going to do it, it's going to be on the Manville side. So this is essentially seeing that design come to fruition.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we'll close this docketed public hearing. And Ms. Cade, if you'll put item number 3 on the table. And I guess once we get it on the table, we would then need an amending motion adding the recommendations from staff. Can you do that?
Both of them?
Yeah, put it on the table, and then we'll do the amending motion.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Consideration and possible action, resolution number R 2024-CUP 24-21. So moved.
Second. All right, so we have a motion and a second, so now would you amend the motion, adding the staff recommendation? You don't have to name all of them.
No.
7, right?
Just to clarify, I think the recommended motion to amend would be to amend the motion to include the approval of this CUP with the addition of staff's 7 recommendations that were approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
So
So
moved.
moved. Yeah, that's what I say. So moved. Perfect. Second.
We have a motion and a second on the motion to amend. Now, questions, comments, anyone on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we'll call for a vote on the motion to amend.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we're now back to the amended motion. So, Madam Secretary, we'll call for the vote.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavia?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we'll move to new business item number 4. Mr. Tuman, if you'd present that, please.
Consideration and possible action, resolution number R2024-235. So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is for our annual contract with Siddons Martin for preventative maintenance and repairs to our heavy fire apparatus. We contract out this work based on the technical nature of the work and the equipment and the need to minimize downtime with those particular pieces of equipment. We actually only pay for the cost incurred. However, we approve an estimated amount annually. So we do recommend, based on Siddons Martin's past performance, where they performed well for us for several years, award of the contract in the estimated amount of $500,000. Thank you.
Very good. Open it up for questions, comments, concerns from council. Big pieces of equipment cost a lot of money to maintain, that's for sure. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Have we ever looked at potentially bringing someone on staff that's qualified or has experience with this equipment?
So we have looked at in our future staffing plan the potential for bringing on an emergency vehicle technician. We really don't have the facility right now to address those type of things in our current fleet operations. However, what's under construction out at the Hill House facility for our new fleet operations building would accommodate those type of vehicles, so we could look at bringing somebody on at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Koza?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, in regards to our maintenance program here with the larger apparatuses, will this keep our units functioning better longer?
It will. The plan is, with the proposals that we have, with the equipment we're purchasing currently, with the 8-year preventative maintenance warranties, those in place, as well as the bumper-to-bumper warranties that we have, that's going to allow a lot of this work to be done by Siddons, and the fact that we talked about not having the emergency vehicle technicians, the EVTs. Hopefully in the future, that's something we can consider, but as was elaborated, we need to have the facilities to be able to accommodate that. So for right now, this is the kind of the best place for us to be as far as getting the proper amount of repair and response that we need in conjunction with our fleet department.
Okay, thank you. I know you and I have had conversations about past experiences, so appreciate that. Thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, I just want to know, it says estimated amount of $500,000. That's for maintenance and repair. If there's no repairs, still $500,000 or?
No, we only pay for what actually is done.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pool of money and up to, yep. And it would, obviously, if we go over that or something causes that, then it would be a supplemental coming back to us, correct? Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right, Very good. With that, we'll go to item number 5. Mr. Patel, would you present it, please?
Yes, Mayor. Considering possible action, resolution number R2024-261. So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Staff report, I believe you're going to start off, and Darren's got a...
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. This item is for council to consider the Pearland Police Officers Association petition for recognition as the bargaining agent for engaging in the meet and confer process. And just kind of want to kick things off by saying, as we've reviewed and analyzed the meet and confer process, I think the best summation of that process is that it provides us a means, both the association and the cities, to where we can address both our collective issues that already exist within the Local Government Code 143 or the Civil Service Code. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Darren to walk us through some of the details of meet and confer.
Thank you, Trent. Thank you, council members. Before we get into this, I want to introduce somebody else that you don't always get to see here this evening. If you'll look back, we've got Katie Leninger here from our office. So not only do we have Lawrence from legal, but we have Katie Leninger as well. And Katie is our sort of resident. She's our civil service expert. She does a great job. As a matter of fact, she teaches at the police academy, an extremely productive individual and very well respected by the police department. So I'm glad to have her here this evening. So thank you, Katie. Yeah, Leninger from legal. Ooh, nice.
There we go.
There we go. I like it.
Sorry.
All right. Anyways, so tonight I'm going to do a brief presentation. So not only do we have Katie here, but we also have, I believe, several representatives from the board and members of the police department. So I want to thank y'all for being here as well this evening. As we get into this, meet and confer, sometimes the biggest obstacle to meet and confer is just sometimes a lack of understanding and what is meet and confer. And so I'd like to take a moment just to sort of brief not only council, but the public in general about what meet and confer is. And so I'm going to do a brief presentation. It's not real long. It's about 16 slides, but they'll go pretty quick. And it just tells a story about what meet and confer is, so we can dispel some of the rumors or whatever that may be out there, and trying to make sure everybody understands what we're actually talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this. First of all, background. Meet and confer is a process in Texas, and it allows cities to negotiate with police and/or fire associations to discuss and reach written agreements on employment terms and conditions. And more recently, here on December the 3rd, 2024, the Pearland Police Officers Association filed a meet and confer petition with the city secretary's office. Now, just to clarify that before I get into this next slide, what we're talking about, the meet and confer provisions, is a special provision under Chapter 142 of the Local Government Code that it specifically authorizes police associations, fire associations, and emergency medical associations. But because that falls under our fire department here, so it's really police and fire that have the ability to do this. And they can submit a petition to the city secretary's office with at least 50% of their membership that can then trigger the meet and confer process. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Meet and confer process aims to facilitate discussions between public employers and public associations, employee associations, in this case the PPOA, in a less adversarial way. Discussions can include wages, hours, benefits, hiring, discipline, and other working conditions. So there's a whole range of things that can be discussed and negotiated as part of a meet and confer agreement. Here's the key, while we're having this discussion tonight. So by the 30th day after the city receives a petition signed by the majority of all police officers, excluding the head of the agency and exempt employees, that request recognition as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent, the city council shall do one of three things. And so that's what we're here tonight, is talk about what your options are now that we've received a petition. And just to clarify for you, there was a petition. I believe we have a total of 136 signatures verified on the petition, and there are 170 police officers that were certified as existing in Pearland at this time. So what are the three options? And I'm going to go over all three because these are statutory, but they're really, for practical purposes for us tonight, there's really two options. And so I'll outline that in just a moment. First, one option the council has this evening is to grant recognition and determine that the city may meet and confer without conducting any election. And when I say recognition, That would be recognition of the Pearland Police Officers Association as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent for the Pearland police officers in a meet and confer process. The second option you would have is to defer that, and you could defer that and grant it to send that to the voters and let the voters determine if meet and confer process should take place in Pearland. And the voters would determine whether or not the PPOA could be the collective bargaining agent on behalf of the Pearland police officers. The third option is order a certification election. This is not an election that would go to our voters. This is an election that would take place within the department if there's some doubt or question as to whether or not at least 50% of the police officers, or that the petition represented at least 50% of the police officers. That's just not the case here. As I indicated a while ago, we're dealing with 136 out of 170. There's really no question there. And we only have one police officers association here. We don't have multiple. So it's that third option is really not something that I think we would really factor into tonight's discussion. So option one, this would be granting recognition. This would involve council approving a resolution this evening accepting meet and confer and recognizing the Pearland Police Officers Association as the sole and exclusive bargaining agent of the Pearland Police Department. If this were to occur, the city shall recognize the PPOA until recognition of the association is withdrawn. And so if it's, and that has to be 90 days. You provide 90 days notice if you're ever going to withdraw your recognition. But that typically, you don't just simply withdraw it you can withdraw it in the midst of an agreement, but the agreement continues to run its course. The second option would be an authorization election if the voters were to determine this, and that would be essentially in tonight's resolution, the council essentially ordered an election to determine if the city may meet and confer. That election would have to occur this coming May 2025. It would require a majority of the votes to pass, and if the measure were defeated, then the PPOA could not submit another petition before the second anniversary, so they would have to wait till May 2027 if an election were to fail. So the selection of the bargaining agent. So if approved tonight, and I think as you heard from Mr. Epperson's comments, and I would echo those as well, if the council were to move forward with option one as recognizing the PPOA as the exclusive bargaining agent, then after tonight's resolution is passed, we would move into the next stage, which is selection of the bargaining agents. And so the city manager would select one or more persons to represent the city as its sole and exclusive bargaining agent. And then the PPOA would do the same. And generally speaking, both sides come to an agreement beforehand on the same number of individuals that will be acting as the bargaining agents for the city. And then during that time, you're establishing ground rules for those discussions. The effect of an agreement, and this is what's unique about meet and confer. It really offers a lot of latitude and creativity between management and the police department, or excuse me, the PPOA bargaining on behalf of the department. So the applicable statutes and applicable local ordinances, civil service rules, apply to any issues that are not in that agreement. So currently today, the Pearland Police Department is civil service under Chapter 143, the local government code, and that means those are the rules that apply to them today. And as you know, those rules cover everything from classification, promotion, discipline, leave, you name it. There's a whole list of issues, and they're very strict rules, and it's very difficult to deviate from those rules. And the next slide tells you what the agreement could allow you to do. So written meet and confer agreements preempt all contrary state statutes, local ordinances, executive orders, civil service provisions, rules adopted by the police or city or by division or agent of the city or civil service commission. So what this is we get to come together and, like I said, be as creative as the parties can be to accomplish mutual goals. And that's why meet and confer can be of benefit to both the city and the PPOA. You're thinking, well, sometimes you get into an agreement and then there's interpretations. What does this mean? We didn't contemplate this. How do we resolve this issue if you're living under an agreement? And so the agreement can establish procedures for parties to resolve disputes related to any rights, duties, or obligations under the agreement. should be noted that once we enter meet and confer process, there's no obligation of either party to reach an agreement. Okay? I think in all likelihood, or at least historically speaking, if you look at cities who enter meet and confer, the general outcome is that they do reach agreements. The agreement's enforceable and binding on the city, the association, and police officers if the council ratifies by a majority vote after it's been ratified by the PPO. This wouldn't really apply here. There's an election bar provision in the statute. So while a meet and confer agreement is in place, a city may not accept a petition requesting an election to adopt civil service. We're already civil service, so this provision wouldn't apply. That could apply possibly if fire were in play, but in this particular instance, it would not. So how does it work a little bit? Whenever we get into this process, agents have been determined, bargaining agents. You're sitting down, you're trying to brainstorm, determine, and figure out what the issues are, and then you're going to sit down and start negotiating. And the thing is, the statute doesn't say when you start, doesn't make you start. It's just we enter, meet, and confer. It's really up to the parties to initiate that process. Okay? So there's no timelines of when to begin or end. It's one thing that's important to note, though, is that the deliberations between the two parties will be subject to the public information, to the Texas Open Meetings Act. So those will be public. Public could sit in and watch the negotiation take place, and as the parties discuss. Now, when the parties separate from the negotiating table and they separate and they go back to their own caucuses, they can have private meetings there. So, and so could management, so could the PPOA, to discuss their issues individually and then come back and have those conversations. So, next steps. Tonight, before you, there's a resolution, and what I did not want to be presumptive about what council may want to do this evening. I think we've recommended to council what we think is in the best interest, but it's obviously the discretion of the council is what you think is in the best interest of the city. And so all three statutory options are provided there. Option A is the option that would grant the meet and confer status to the PPOA by council. And then option 2 is the one that would send it to the voters, or option B. And then option C that's the one that I don't believe would really be applicable. That would be the certification election. So with that being said, I'll be happy to answer any questions if the council has any. Thank you.
All right, very good. Before we move on, we do have a couple of people that wanted to speak, so let's go ahead and we'll bring up Mr. Adam Carroll. One to speak, sorry. Yeah. Welcome, Sergeant.
Thank you. Adam Carroll, 12511 Britt Road, 77581. I'm here representing the Pearland Police Officers Association. I'll keep it short and brief. We are wholeheartedly in favor of this. I think we have a good working relationship with Trent and his staff, and I think this would just make it easier all the way around. I know the glaring question is there's about 30 people that didn't sign it. We just couldn't get to everybody. I'm not saying somebody wouldn't, but we just couldn't get to everybody, and we're on a time crunch. So we do have a couple of gentlemen in the audience with us, some representatives that work for TMPA, the Texas Municipal Police Association, which is our state entity. They both have a vast amount of experience with meet and confer, and certainly if there's a question I can't answer that you're asking me, I would have to defer to them. So I would just ask that you please welcome them, or if you have questions that you would maybe like to hear from them, get their experience, please do so. That's it. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for your time in this. Thank you for leading the charge there. Before we move on, member Byram was absent tonight, but he asked me to read a statement into the record so he could at least have his thoughts on record, and I'll give this to the city secretary when it's over. It is my understanding that the Pearland Police Officers Association, PPOA, has petitioned the city to request recognition of the PPOA as the sole, and exclusive bargaining agent for the purpose of engaging in the meet and confer process. I would like to express my support for this request. I believe that instituting the process of meet and confer will better serve city staff, the Pearland Police Department, and our taxpayers, as meet and confer will allow for an open, transparent, and predictable process to plan for the future, both budgetarily and within the PPD. As such, I support moving forward with an affirmative vote by the council to establish this process so staff and the PPOA can begin putting meet and confer in place in advance of the FY26 budgetary planning process. Thank you, Clint Byron, Pearland City Council position for today. So I'll make sure that Francis, I'll get this to you tonight. I'll just put it with these. That way you've got it for the record. And I want to echo that as we start our comments up here and questions. I want to echo, I think this is the right process to go through a meet and confer. I think I've talked to a few of you, and it kind of memorializes in some way a process that we go through now. It's just going to give a little bit more formality to it, as well as agreements that if we come to agreement, we have signed agreements. I like the transparency side of it, open to the public. So questions, comments, negotiations, all of that are out there for people to see and be able to even go back to. That you'll have that at our discretion. So I think it's good. I think there's protections for both the officers. I think there's protections for the city and command staff as we go through this process. It's really meant to be a two-way street, a win-win for everyone. And so I certainly support it. I don't support sending it to the voters. I think we have a good enough process right here with the council that we can recognize you guys as the agent and move this process forward quickly. So I'll certainly support it. Probably won't get a chance to vote on it, but I'll certainly support it. With that, I'll turn it over to council for questions, comments. Ms. Chavarria.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the presentation. And I also just want to thank you all for being here today and everything that you do for our community. It's greatly appreciated. So, Darren, I do have a question regarding slide 15. I am in favor. However, on the slide, it states no timeline on when negotiations will begin or end. So my question that I have is, are we hoping to have an agreement prior to our budget processing workshop or budget workshops?
Good question, and I think that the parties will ultimately be in control of that, and I think based on I know the direction from council and what we know that we're going to be entering the new budget season soon, and so that's going to be a priority is to try to get a meet confer in place before we get too far into that process. And we had a phone call with an attorney here recently. It's done numerous meet and confer agreements, and she said it really depends on the issues, how long it lasts, but traditionally she would felt like 3 months was was doable to get a meet and confer agreement done within 3 months. So if you're looking at January, February, and into March, that would allow ample time, I think, to incorporate that into the budget process.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. PPOA supports it. When I met with the chiefs a couple months ago, they were mentioning there's some positives there in terms of maybe some adjustments to how things are done via civil service and some other items with discipline. So I'm all in favor of passing it tonight, and I look forward to the next steps.
Mr. Patel?
Thank you, Mayor. Darren, you certainly explained the positives. Can you tell me, based on our current way we do this, what's the negative for the city and the taxpayers?
Are you talking about the negative of moving forward with meet and confer? Yes. That remains to be seen, because I don't know what the ultimate meet and confer agreement will be like, so I don't know what you're talking about on the taxpayers as far as budget implications. However, I can only say this, is that the whole point, when you look at 143, right now, it's, and to some extent, it's very limiting on the department with respect to hiring practices, promotions, things of that nature, even discipline. And what it does is it can benefit the department in that regard as well. And so I think that can be, when you factor that in to, as well as the traditional, what you think of as compensation issues and leave issues and, lateral transfers, things of this nature, all these things can come into play. I think that there's an opportunity for the city to capture an agreement that works both for the department and for the city as well.
So I guess my question would be on section 143 about disciplinary. Recently, we had, a issue where we had to, I'm trying to be sensitive on my word usage. You're right about that. Yeah, so I think you're aware of this issue that I'm talking about. How does that play into it? Because, I felt like that was probably something, I didn't feel it was the best interest of the taxpayers. And I was told, well, that's the best thing we could do. And again, in that situation, how would we be able to ensure that we can fight these, and not settle?
Right. Well, each case is on its own merit, and I don't want to I don't want to talk about specific cases involving officers here in the meeting tonight. That obviously not the topic of discussion. However, I think your question generally is, does this afford some opportunities for the city to capitalize on some changes through the meet and confer agreement that would override some of the protections that exist under 143? And the answer to that is yes. That's part of that give and take process that would provide more opportunity for leadership within the department to not necessarily have to follow 143 for disciplinary actions, but in certain instances that's either negotiated, it provides opportunity to do things there that maybe would not be appealable in the same way.
Got it. Thank you.
Let me piggyback on that. We have a couple gentlemen from TMPA who have, experience with meet and confer. May ask that question of one of them, possibly go to the podium and answer. But downside to meet and confer, downside for the city, downside for the officers. And that may be an exhaustive list, but I just...
Yeah, I'm Jay McClellan. I represent TMPA. I'm actually a resident of the city, 6134D Road, Pearland, Texas, 77581. In regards to discipline, there are hard, fast rules in civil service under 143. The city is required to follow those rules. Same with appeal processes. So if someone's disciplined under a civil service, they have the right to appeal to either the Civil Service Commission or a third-party arbitration. A lot of times, those get negotiated between, a lot of times, our attorneys and your attorneys to try to alleviate that. Under meet and confer, the parties agree on how discipline is handled under the agreement or a set term. So, for example, if you don't work for, say, a civil service agency and you have meet and confer, you might be able to negotiate in a third-party arbitration or some sort of other mechanism in discipline. So all of this is agreed on between city legal, city negotiation team, and the police department. So terms that work for both parties.
Is there any downside to meet and confer, just in general?
My personal opinion, I worked for a city, I'm now retired, that had recently adopted meet and confer just adjacent to this city, Missouri City. It has been very beneficial for that city to enter in a meet and confer agreement with their local association. Both parties have agreed. It has worked out to benefit both sides. There's been some give and take in those negotiations. I've been a part of both of those negotiations. They've negotiated two contracts so far. I haven't seen anything negative come from it. There was some issues in the first contract that were addressed in the second contract on both sides. some things that just didn't work out necessarily on paper, and when you put it into action, you had to come back and renegotiate those items. But as far as a downside on either side, I couldn't say anything negative regarding it. Now, obviously, we support Meet and Confer. We've spent a lot of time over the years lobbying for officer rights, negotiating rights, being able to bargain collectively between management and the line level officer. That's what we do. I mean, that's our bread and butter. That's what we do every day, is we make sure that we can preserve the rights of our officers and benefit management at the same time.
Mayor, if I could weigh in briefly. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to introduce myself. My name's Leighton Gennari, 14007 Belmont Circle, Mont Belvieu, Texas. I'm the Houston area field rep for TMPA. I'm going on about between when I was an officer as well as TMPA going on 30 years dealing with collective bargaining or Meet and Confer. I was just going to bring up the fact, I think somebody asked about cost or whatever. There's really no cost associated with Meet and Confer. It's whatever the city comes up, or once y'all meet, whatever that cost comes up to, that would be your cost. There's no hidden cost or anything like that in Meet and Confer. Just wanted to make that aware of that. So a lot of your Meet and Confer, just real quick, a lot of the area is collective bargaining, but there are some Meet and Confer. There's a handful of cities in the area that are Meet and Confer, more collective bargaining, but some Meet and Confer. And a lot of the Meet and Confer has started going on for hiring, stuff like that. Like with Meet and Confer, now that the state's changed the age requirement on civil service, that doesn't really matter. But like civil service, where you pick the first person on the test or something like that, you can have alternate test and hiring for police officers, that type of stuff. It's basically whatever each side comes up with, whatever you can imagine can be put in there.
Yeah, hence what the city attorney said, if we can be creative, it can go in there, and as long as we live by it, we can live by it.
Well, and the good thing is you can walk away from it as well. So,
Thank you, Mayor. So there are a lot of great things I think that'll come about from Meet and Confer, but since it was asked and we haven't gotten a good solid answer on, is there a downside to it? If the only one that I really see is if you go into a multi-year agreement that includes specific compensation requirements in that agreement, and there's some downturn in the economy, flattening of the economy, or an issue that makes that very difficult on the other pieces of our budget. So that could potentially be one, but I think the upsides significantly outweigh anything like that. I mean, we can you can mitigate that by how long the agreements are and exactly what you're getting back when you're giving anything away. So overall, I think the process is going to be fruitful and productive and in the right direction.
Yeah, the reason I asked the question is like anything, you want to do your dead level best to figure out all the unintended consequences. We have the best of intentions, the best of all worlds, and then all of a sudden we wake up and go, ooh, we didn't intend for that to happen.
Just to make a remark
to your
real
point,
quick.
we can negotiate and back out, but
Just to make a remark on that, we put reopeners a lot of times on multi-year Meet and Confers that allows both sides to open it up if there was an issue that came up. We're not in the business of trying to make cities go broke and then you have to start laying people off. We don't want to do that.
especially when you've had a downturn in the economy. 08 comes to mind when you had the financial meltdown in the housing crisis and all that, and nobody really foresaw that, too much, and all of a sudden it happens. And so I'm glad to hear, those types of mechanisms can be put in there. Ms. Cade?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Darren, on slide 8, it says selection of bargaining agents. City manager selects one or more, and then PPOA designates one or more. It says everything else was really specific through here. This is a little bit vague.
It's only vague because the statute doesn't stipulate any specific number or who, anything of that nature. So, were you wanting to say something?
I was going to mention there are best practices around what's a good amount of people to have there and who you typically want to have on that. So we'll start with those best practices, and that's typically, my understanding, is about 3 to 5, likely 5 for this first go around, and then we'll go from there.
All right, thank you, Mayor. A couple of questions. I apologize. Would you be able to tell me what the average term usually for these agreements are?
Typically, most cities and associations like to be around the 3-year mark. It's kind of easier to forecast out 3 years than it is maybe 5 or 7, something like that. 3 years is usually a good time to come back to the table in that 3rd year and renegotiate whether, there's been a change in, recruiting or retention, or you're just trying to renegotiate maybe some terms for different items where you say maybe your first contract was geared toward retention and recruiting, and then you filled your ranks, you're staffed, and maybe now you want to start looking at maybe incentive-based contract where you're not necessarily looking for multiple year raises at percentage raises, but like maybe looking at incentive pay increases to develop those officers to continue to stay. Because ultimately the goal is for you to invest in somebody and then you retain them throughout their career and they retire from here. And that's ultimately what you want. It costs money to hire people, right? So unfortunately, we're in a recruiting and retention crisis now. And ultimately, everybody's trying to steal everybody else from other agencies in the area. I know I've worked law enforcement in this area. I know how it is. It's pretty cutthroat. So if you can entice somebody to come over, and then at the end of the day, you want them to stay. But to answer your question, 3 years is typically what most, at least on the association side, looks for. Cities tend to agree with that. But sometimes you just can't get it done, and a 1-year deal may work, and then you just come back to the table that following year.
Thank you. And then, Darren, have we gotten a list? Normally, anytime we do something like this, you guys compare us to surrounding cities. I didn't see a list of other cities in there. I know he said Missouri City has it. Do we have other cities in this area that has done this recently or has been doing this for a while?
Do you gentlemen know in this area?
Yeah, so the majority of your meet and confer or collective bargaining cities are going to be on your southeast side of Houston. So almost everybody in Galveston County either has meet and confer or collective bargaining. That goes from Galveston to Texas City to Dickinson to Santa Fe, all the way up LaPorte, which is Harris County, but LaPorte, Baytown, especially your larger cities are starting to get that. Like when you start looking up in I know this isn't here, but when you look in the DFW area, McKinney, places that you would never think would have like meet and confer or something like that, you're starting to see it at the larger cities because of the competitiveness that's starting to happen. So a lot of the cities in this area of Houston, this side of Houston, does have it. Conroe actually has a meet and confer, and theirs had to do with some of the stuff within civil service. That was how their meet and confer came about. So there's multiple cities in the area. I would say we do probably about 14 cities and 1 county just in the southeast Houston area.
So this is all new to me, so I apologize. I'm full of questions running around in my head. So you're saying these cities are starting to pick meet and confer as a new trend. Would you say that's true?
I would say yes.
So then what's the advantage do I have in 3 years if everybody surrounding my city has the same agreement or similar, then I lose my advantage of retainage?
Well, you're not everybody's not all having 3-year contracts. Some people may have a 1 year, some people may have a 2 year, some people may have 3, 4, 5, whatever. And so what we do, as far as, I don't know about what the cities do, but as far as TMPA is every year we do salary surveys. as well as comprehensive annual financial reports on cities that we're dealing with when it comes to any type of meet and confer collective bargaining. So we're in real time. You as a city or whatever other city that does, let's say every 5 years they do a salary survey. I don't know if y'all even do one here, but a salary survey. Well, if you do it every 5 years, you're dealing with 5-year-old numbers by the time you get to year 5. Does that make sense?
Well, does it make sense that our PPO sends us the survey? So we don't know how to do it. They do it every year for us, right?
Right.
So, I mean,
Well, we actually do it for them. Now, here, Adam has done it quite a bit lately, and we help them with some of the numbers that we get. But that's on the city's part to do a salary survey, or unless you trust us on our salary survey, we do it for free for Pearland, and some cities are out there spending $100,000 on something that they could do themselves.
Sure.
We do it in-house. We've worked with the PPOA on who our comparable cities are that we want to look at each year and work with them to make sure we've got the same numbers and we're on the same page with that. And I think, that's a small, part of, the competitiveness nature with other cities is a small part of this. It's, really you're able to address what your local, situation and your local concerns and issues are of both the Police Officers Association and the cities. So I think, not all meet and confer agreements look the same. Each city's got their own nuances with each of those. So we'll be able to address ours, and it may not look the same as some of the other cities that were thrown out there.
and I appreciate you guys. And I guess from my point of view, and I don't know about the rest of the council, I guess I'm trying to figure out where are we failing that we need to go to this route, right? What is it causing us to say today, hey, we're really struggling here, and that's where would completely resolve this? I haven't heard that answer. I mean, I don't know where we're failing as a city.
I'll give you an example.
Please.
So currently the city of Pearland is a civil service agency, and they are trying to hire police officers. And so they're advertising that they're paying a certain amount of money, whatever y'all's starting salary is, mid-60s, which is pretty competitive, right? But if I apply at the city of Pearland today, I'm going to come in as a starting from scratch officer at the salary. You have no choice. You have to pay me at the very bottom. Under a meet and confer agreement, now you can pay me for my experience. So I have 20 years. I decide to come to Pearland Police Department. I'm going to add value to your police department immediately, right? 20 years of experience. Right now, currently, you have to bring me in at the bottom pay. But I can go to, say, for example, Baytown Police Department, who's under a meet and confer agreement, and I can come in as an 8-year or 10-year officer. So I'm already making close to $20,000 more than a person straight out of the academy. But if I apply here at Pearland, I'm going to make the same amount of money that they just graduated the Pearland Police Academy. So you're missing the opportunity to recruit people that have experience, because I know there's a lot of sign-on bonuses and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, being able to bring in people with experience, and you can do that under a meet and confer. And that's just one example that I could give you without going into negotiations at this point. But I mean, that's an example. That's why a lot of cities are entering into meet and confer agreements, especially in civil service agencies. Second one is, if you have a lot of people are not putting themselves through the academy like they were 20 years ago when I got into law enforcement. They're wanting the city to pay for them to go. This city even has their own police academy where you're paying cadets to attend. Well, under meet and confer agreements, now you can hire experienced people off of one list, and you can hire cadets off a separate list. Currently, you can't do that under the rules of civil service. So it almost becomes a force multiplier in your hiring process, where you're able to get those people out on the street quickly that have experience, that may have worked at a smaller agency that are looking to move up, and those people that are looking to join the ranks. You can look at both of those simultaneously without having to skip over people in the list, or you're hard pressed to go from the top to the bottom. You can almost create under meet and confer agreements, and that's what Missouri City did, is they created 2 separate lists. Certified and non-certified. It's worked out great. They were almost 30 officers short at one time, and they were able to quickly hire people and not have to pass up people that weren't certified because they needed people on the streets.
I really do appreciate that because I did not know that. Thank you.
It's good perspective. I think at the end of the day, civil service is rigid. Like I think you mentioned, we have to follow those rules to the T. So it's very rigid. And meet and confer allows us to add in the flexibility to what we really want to do. And to that point, we may have an agreement where we need to address retention, but then the next agreement we need to address, something else. And we can tailor those agreements to do that. I would recommend, just moving forward, assuming this were to pass, is, I don't know that the first rattle out of the box we would do a 3-year agreement. I think we go and do an agreement and we work through that process to make sure that we do it. And then once we've done that in the second year, you decide if you're going to do a 2 or 3 year process or 2 or 3 year agreement. I think you just do one and get the process down, and then you move forward with multiple year projects. That would be my recommendation, but
So
we'll let the staff come up with
Mayor, I do have a question. When I apologize. You said there's no cost associated with this to the taxpayers earlier. Is that my understanding correct? Going through this process with meet and concur, there's no cost.
Right, no, I mean, if you ratify it tonight, there's no cost of this besides,
I guess
gas money coming here.
And I guess when we go through this process, I'm assuming, Darren, we're going to hire attorneys, or are we going to do this in-house negotiation ourselves?
So I was going to just jump in there that would be some cost in our initial meet and confer agreement, as we would bring in outside counsel likely on our first one. Going into the future ones, the consultation we have is that once you kind of got the process down, you've got one in place, and then you're dealing with a lot of things, I think, the first go around, and then once you've got the first initial agreement in place, any subsequent ones, you're dealing with fewer things. So we would expect that Lindinger from legal would probably help us out there.
Now, going back to your question, though, to answer that, there doesn't have to be a cost. That's the city's option if they want to go get an attorney.
We don't have to.
You don't have to.
We plan to. That we would recommend.
But I do
going
get paid, so.
We'll provide them an attorney.
I do appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
Sure.
I really do.
Any other questions, comments? I would, Chief Randall, I know command staff has had a chance to see this, and you want to kind of weigh in or at least put y'all's stamp on this?
Yes, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, our command staff has gotten together and we have talked about this. In addition to that, we've actually talked to administrations of other departments that have meet and confer, and all the feedback that we have gotten has been positive. And I think a lot of people hit on it tonight, which is that you have to have an agreement, right? And if it's not an agreement, then you all didn't agree to it. And so I think it can really help set up our agency to address some of those things that are in 143 that, might be sticklers for us. The vast number of provisions in 143 are positive, not only for the department to keep it professional and keep, politics out of some of the decision-making that goes on there, but also, to make us competitive with other agencies. So in the end, we are for it and are supportive.
Very good. Very good. Last call for questions. So, Darren or Trent, on if we were to move forward and just recognize it, do we need to, I think the caption actually states that we are recognizing.
We need to amend the motion.
So we need to amend it to state option A?
That is correct, because I drafted it so that it could be any of the three, and if the council so chooses, then we would need to amend the original motion to reflect option A.
Okay. So option A is granting the PPOA as the
sole and exclusive bargaining agent on behalf of the Pearland Police Officers.
Option B is you would send it to the voters.
That's correct.
Okay. So do we have an amendment?
Yep. Mayor, I'll make a motion to amend recognizing the PPOA as the sole bargaining agent for the meet and confer.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Motion to amend. Any other questions to that? Mr. Tooman, do you have? Okay. Any other questions to that? Seeing none, Madam Secretary will vote on the motion to amend.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavdia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right, so we have an amended motion on the table now. Any other questions, follow-ups with that?
Real quick, Mayor, so this is just for the police department, not the fire.
That's correct.
So we can expect a fire one coming.
We don't know what the Fire Association is going to do at this point.
Got it. Okay. Just want to make sure. Thank you.
All right, Madam Secretary, we call for the vote.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavdia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right. Congratulations, fellas. Good job. Yep. Very good. All right. The next two items, 6 and 7, we'll take 6 first. Mr. Koza, if you'll make the motion, but I believe the city attorney is going to read the entire caption into it as it meets with eminent domain.
Okay. If the council so chooses, I can go ahead and I can recommend a motion, and you could so move if you choose to do so. Okay. So I'll go ahead and get this on the table, then I can explain a little bit more about it after I do that. So, Mayor and council members, I'd recommend a motion approving consideration possible action resolution number R 2024-60, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire a fee simple interest, a drainage easement interest, and a temporary construction easement, collectively property interest, to certain property for road and drainage improvements, being all of those certain tracts or parcels containing.
Aaron, back up real quick.
Darren, on the consideration possible action, you said R 2024-60, not 260.
Okay. Thanks for the interruption. That would be no. I really am thanking you for the interruption. If that's the case, just to clarify that we are in R 2024-260. All right. Thank you so much. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick back up after property interests, okay, to certain property for road and drainage improvements, being all of those certain tracts or parcels containing 0.054 acres, 2,376 square feet, and fee title interest for road right-of-way, 0.0557 acres, 2,426 square feet for a drainage easement interest, and 0.0273 acres, 1,188 square feet for a temporary access easement on land situated in the HTBRR Company Survey, Abstract 304, Brazoria County, Texas, being out of and a portion of that certain culled 1 acre tract of land conveyed to Carl Gehring by deed executed February 9, 2023, as recorded in clerk's file number 2023-005935 in the official records of Brazoria County, for the construction and maintenance of road and drainage improvements on certain real property described herein.
So moved.
Second.
Okay.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavdia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
No.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1.
All right, same drill for number 7.
Okay.
Have a read if you would.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action resolution.
No, hang on.
Oh.
Aaron's gonna
Yeah,
read it.
I'll go ahead
Okay.
and read
Make it
that
easy for you.
So, again, council, recommending a motion for consideration possible action, resolution number 2024-259, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Pearland, Texas, authorizing the power of eminent domain to acquire a sewer utility easement on certain property for improvements to the Berry Rose wastewater reclamation facility, being all of that certain tract or parcel containing a 0.271 acre tract in the WDC Hall Survey, Abstract number 23 in Harris County, Texas. Said 0.271 acre tract in Restricted Reserve A of the final plat of the Links at Green Tea subdivision as recorded in clerk's file number 2013-95950 in the Harris County Clerk's Office, and is an tract of land described in a deed to El Rey Corporation as recorded in clerk's file number U921576 in the Harris County Clerk's Office for construction and maintenance of sewer utility improvements on certain real property described herein.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Member Chevadia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
All right. With that, Carbone, if you present item 8.
Thank you, Mayor. Consideration possible action, Resolution R 2024-263. So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Staff report.
Thank you, Mayor. This resolution is for adopting a legislative agenda for the city for the 89th session of the Texas Legislature. Similar to previous sessions, our legislative agenda is organized by the categories of local control, keeping families safe and healthy, expanding business growth, and increasing efficiency and reducing waste. The position statements associated with each category are tied back to our strategic priorities of trusted government, strong economy, safe community, sustainable infrastructure, resilient finances, and connected community. In the 2023 session, the last go around, there were over 8,000 bills filed with more than 1,800 affecting cities in some substantial way. So our position statements in our legislative agenda are general, and they define whether we support or oppose legislation in particular areas rather than being tied to a specific bill, because there are so many bills filed. So we then utilize this as we discuss our general positions on any particular bills with our state delegation, our senator, as well as our state representatives. We also use it at Pearland Day in Austin when we go for those legislative visits, and then also use it to take positions on any particular other bills that may affect the city of Pearland. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Hardy, and he's going to walk us through kind of the legislative session schedule and how this will be, or when this will be used throughout the session. Mr. Hardy.
Thank you, Trent, Mayor and Council. Real briefly, if Council were to concur and take action in adoption of the agenda tonight, our next step this week later will be to meet with our 3 representatives of the Pearland area in the House and on the state Senate side. So we do have scheduled meetings with Representative Jeff Berry, Representative Cody Vasut, and State Senator Mays Middleton. And we also have on the horizon our traditional Pearland Days in Austin, as well as the Brazoria County Days, which we support late in February. Another date to be mindful of is that 60-day deadline for bill filing, which is March 14th, 2025. And as Trent mentioned, there'll be lots of bills filed. We anticipate this being a very active legislative session. And sine die, of course, the end of the session scheduled for June the 2nd. And open for any questions or concerns. Pass back the balance to Council for any questions.
All right, we'll open up for any questions or comments. I like the fact that we're a little general in our description of these, because as we know, 8,000 bills, and there could be any number of bills that we're in favor of, any number of bills that we may not be. And some of that will be swirling around as we go through the legislative session. We'll hear those types of things. So what's generally will happen as we do have 2 other representatives than that, but they just have very, very small slivers, or excuse me, 3 other representatives. They just have very small portions of our city. But the 3 main ones that meetings are set up with, it's really to talk about, these are our main things like economic development, general government administration, governmental employee benefits, land use and annexation, so forth and so on, that's in our write-up. There are a couple of bills that we do know some of these representatives have filed already. For example, there's one that Representative Vasut has filed, and it's a small lot that we can't have a lot, larger than 2,500 square feet as a minimum lot size. So kind of intend to say what's behind that, what's your thoughts on that, and those types of things. But really, these meetings are to kind of set our priorities about what we want to see. But we may, have a couple of specifics if we know of one that they've already filed. So, it's fast and furious as we go through the session, and then it gets, as always, really crazy at the end. So, open it up for questions or comments. Mr. Koza.
Thank you, Mayor. Joel, on slide 11 of 47, page 7, it says on the bottom of it. Towards the bottom, it says open meeting, public advertising.
Pardon me while I switch to the actual agenda, if you will.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, right there, open meetings, open records. No, excuse me, open meetings, public advertising. On that, it says support legislation that would enable the use of online electronic notice rather than obsolete media for all public notices. I've had several, well, maybe a little more than several, older people that kind of took offense to being obsolete because they do read the paper. So is that a this or that?
I think in the past we've used that term, so it's just been a part of our normal historical language. I think we struggle locally because we do have a very limited circulation where our local official paper of record is concerned. And I think sometimes the thought is the message really doesn't get out to reach the larger population. I don't think that we would necessarily want to depart from the capability of reaching an important target in the community. So I think we would probably support the addition of electronic as an acceptable means of doing so. And I think you probably wouldn't see legislation that would say either or. It would just say you can use electronic versus having to use your local paper of official record. And for a community like ours, where it's a very small circulation, it would give us an advantage of getting a lot more of the message out.
I get the advantage of meeting more.
We can change that language.
We do have a segment of people that that's all they do read.
Sure.
And so I got quite a few saying, "Hey, you're calling me obsolete," and that's where I get my.
And that wasn't the intent, but we can certainly. change that.
I understand that. That's why I just didn't know, was it an either or was, if it's an addition to, then yeah, it's all good.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, we call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chapania?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tuman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, we will move to other business. There were none. Mayor, council issues for city council discussion, there were none. We will be moving to executive session under Texas Government Code, Section 551.087, deliberations regarding economic development negotiations. We'll recess into exec session at 8:51. Josh, are we on? Okay. City Council has returned from executive session at 9:41. With that, we'll move to new business continued. Item number 9. Do we have a motion for the table?
Yes, Mayor, I'd make a motion that we authorize the PDC to enter into loan assistance agreement with Project 2413 as discussed in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion. Boy, that was like repeating quickly. We have a motion and a second. Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Mayor Pro Tem Carbone?
Aye.
Member Koza?
Aye.
Member Chavadia?
Aye.
Member Cade?
Aye.
Member Tooman?
Aye.
Member Patel?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, thank you for that. With that, we'll move to adjournment at 9:42. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, everyone.